welcome back to our channel, Hanging with the Jameses, where the first time you're guests and the second time you're family. I'm Keone.
And I'm Jamar. Welcome, family.
So today's topic, we're going to be discussing mental health. This topic was sent in by one of our peers. I'm not sure if we got permission to say her name, but shout out to you for this topic. So she wants us to discuss why is it so difficult for people to accept mental health and to accept counseling. Specifically in the Black community, mental health has been previously such a stigma for some reason. Today we're gonna dive into that topic.
Thank you all for the support thus far. We're gonna continue to try to bring you good content as we stated in previous videos. All right, family. So of course, I'll go first on this. Typically, I know it's ladies first, but Keone allowed me, you guys. Can you believe it? Keone allowed me to go ahead and tackle this issue first. So I want to first and foremost start out with letting you all know that it's okay to not be okay. And specifically to my Black men here. It's okay to say you need help. It's okay to say, hey, I don't feel like myself. I haven't felt like myself for a while. I think admitting that to yourself or admitting that to others may put you in a sense where you feel like you're vulnerable. But I'm here to tell you that there is strength in vulnerability. The strongest thing you can do is not only admit that you need help, but seek that help and seek that guidance until you're feeling like a full version of yourself again. So man, you are not weak if you feel like you need to talk to someone, if you feel like you need to get something off of your chest. Quite the contrary, you're stronger than you think. So don't ever feel like that you're not. But it's okay to not be okay. There are a lot of things. People are dealing with every single thing possible, every single thing imaginable right now. And it's okay to need that help. Don't be afraid to reach out and seek whatever guidance you need.
And I agree with that, especially as me personally, I'm someone who I'm open about the fact that I have dealt with mental health issues in the past, and I wrote a blog about it like a few years back, but it was specifically in during my college years where I dealt with depression and suicidal thoughts, and I dealt with it alone, and I really do thank God that He brought me through, because it was a time where I felt like I could not go to anyone and express how I was feeling. And as I reflect now, I know that I should have gotten help, and it would have made the process easier. And so even now, I do encourage counseling. I've had plenty of counseling sessions, and it's a healthy alternative. And let's be honest, y'all, life be lifing sometimes.
Definitely.
Like for every mountain there's a valley, and it's life. It's everyone experiences, like everyone has had a day where they just didn't know how they were gonna make it, but we're still here, and we're glad that you're here. And so it became more so for me, because even at the time when I felt like I was struggling the most with my mental health, it was a time where I felt like it was hard to come out and say that you need help. So I don't want to be dismissive of the fact that it can be difficult to just come out and say you need help, especially because I feel like when I was going through it, it was a time where, I would kind of hint to people like, hey, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. And it was like, oh, well, your life is still a lot better than a lot of other people. And, I understand that they had good intentions, but that's not helpful for someone who's dealing with suicidal thoughts or in a deep depression. And so it's okay if you don't have the words to say to someone who is experiencing that, but just be supportive, just try to lead them to the right resources, and just be there for them. So, Jamar, what would you say, I guess, why do you feel like so many people kind of shy away from receiving the help that they need?
I feel like they're ashamed. Excuse me. First and foremost, I feel like that's the biggest thing. Kind of being ashamed to show someone that you're vulnerable, which is human. We're all vulnerable and susceptible to something. So I think that's the biggest thing, that vulnerability issue of it. And a lot of people, let's just call it what it is. Like, a lot of people kind of still portray their life, their successes, their highs to like what they see on social media. So, and I feel like if you live your life like that at this all-time high, where people never see you low, it's kind of hard to go to those same group of people who, you know, follow you on social media or whatever the case may be, and just tell them, hey, I'm struggling. Like, what you see on social media is not the true me, not the real me, not the person that I come home to and have to look in the mirror. And for a lot of people, that's hard to accept. Like, your lifestyle outside of social media is hard to accept sometimes, that harsh reality. But it's okay. Like, I promise you, for every successful person that you think that you can show me right now, I guarantee you, if you got into a room with that person behind closed doors, they have a whole bunch of life stories where they failed. They fell flat on their face. But you don't see that. You just see now that they're a successful businessman, businesswoman, whatever the case may be, running these Fortune 500 companies, running these different clothing lines, whatever the case may be. You only see that aspect of it. You don't see the behind closed doors when they was crying, when they were fighting anxiety, fighting depression, fighting suicidal thoughts. You don't see that that part of it, the human side of them. And a lot of them have been a lot more transparent nowadays, in retrospect. But I think, to answer your question, it's just them not wanting to seem vulnerable.
So yeah, I really agree with that. And I think for me, so I have, not that I'm the most successful person in the world, or even the most inspirational, but one thing that I have made it my duty to, not that I owe anyone an explanation, but I try to also, like, let people know when I've had lows. So people may see, like, oh, like, you know, she passed the bar exam, she's an attorney now, she did this, or, you know, just anything, like, she owns her business. And so there are a lot of successes that I feel like people can look at me and just say, oh, like, this, like, she's had an easy life, all this. And on the flip side, there are times where I failed. There are times where I've come short, I've cried, I didn't think I would be able to achieve something. And I am pretty much open about that. I don't hide that, because it's not that I feel like I want people to know that I guess deserve to be where I am, because that's not the case. But it's more so because I felt like when I was coming along, when I was going through this journey, actually just felt like others had such an easier experience, and it made me feel alone in that, like, man, like, I must be doing something wrong. And now that I talk to them, and they'll tell me, like, oh no, like, it was a difficult road. And I feel like sometimes it causes us to shy away from achieving our goals, achieving our dreams, because the first obstacle that we come in contact with, we just feel like, oh, like, that's not for me, or maybe it's meant for me to do something else. And that's not always the case. So I think it is very important to just let others know, like, when things aren't good. And that's for the purpose that I just said, and also for mental health, because I think living in an age where we put everything on social media, we record everything, we take pictures of everything, put it on Snapchat, TikTok, just all of this stuff, and it's typically all of the things that are going well. So it definitely ultimately, like, has an impact on our mental health, whether we realize it or not, the things that you constantly consume. And for that reason, I often take social media breaks, just because I start to realize, like, hey, like, you know, I'm coming too far away from pretty much coming too far away from reality. So in order to get back to that place, to get back to my own thoughts, to get back to this place of me seeking God and everything else I need quiet moments, and that oftentimes leads me to taking social media breaks.
So that's definitely a great point. We just have to be mindful that to not allow what you consume to consume you. And I'm gonna say it again: never allow what you consume to consume you. So I think that pretty much sums up what Kiana was just talking about by social media. Like it's just it is for entertainment, you guys. Like if you go to social media, if you take social media that seriously, that you're feeling like a failure, if you can't watch someone else's success, whether you know them personally or don't know them personally, you're doing yourself an injustice by doing that. Like don't compare your life to anybody else's, because you don't know what they had to go through to get to where they are. Like you don't know how many losses it took to get that one win. And the thing about success, not that I have it figured out, I'm trying to figure out how to be the best version of myself every single day I wake up. And that's what we all should strive to do is be the better version of ourselves than we were the previous day. But the thing about success is you only have to get it right one time. That's it. One time can change your entire life. And I think we don't want to really go through the process. And I feel like once we are willing to go through that process, I feel like things will start to change. But don't go comparing your life to somebody else's life, because you're gonna always come up short. Always.
And I agree with that. The one thing I disagree with is that you said is that people taking it too seriously. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's taking it too seriously, because I think that if you view something on social media, or you see someone younger than you or someone your same age, and you look at them like, oh man, they got a house, they got cars. If you're not there yet, it can make you feel like, what are you doing in your life wrong that they're able to achieve this and you haven't? And for me, I don't think it necessarily means I'm taking it too seriously just because I see it on social media. But I will agree that you shouldn't compare yourself, because everyone's journey is different. And there may be some things that you have achieved in your life that they have not achieved. And I think that has been one of life's biggest lessons for me personally, to enjoy my own journey, enjoy my own ride. God's plans for me is not going to be the same plan for my husband, or not the same plan for the person next to me. So I definitely had to learn to not look at others' success, or where others are, and learn to be content in the season that I am in. I also think that sometimes we shy away from seeking counseling because it will cause us to be held accountable. I know so many people that I've encountered that are not self-aware. They're not accountable for their own actions. It's always somebody else's fault. And a part of having the mental health is accepting accountability. One of the points that our peer that suggested this question wanted us to talk about was not passing on toxic traits to our children. And so I think that when you seek counseling or therapy, there's a portion where you have to be accountable. You have to see how your actions have played a part in your own mental health, how they have affected others, how you've allowed others to possibly affect you. There's so many layers to uncover through a session, and I think it's huge that we seek counseling so that we don't pass on toxicity to our children or to others that we encounter.
Yes, and our kids deserve the best version of ourselves. So if you need to seek that guidance and seek that help to give your kids the best version of yourself, by all means, make sure you do it. It's so more accessible now to seek therapy than it was. Obviously, because we're coming to a point as a nation where it is no longer kind of frowned upon, or you don't look weak. Yeah, it's not
crazy.
And I'm so glad, because it used to be like, oh, if you going to therapy, or you a crazy person.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be further from the truth. We all need a unbiased third party person to kind of bounce ideas off of. And then that's pretty much what you're doing. You're talking your feelings through. You're bouncing ideas. You're talking about what worked, what didn't work in life, and everything in between those steps. But yeah, I'm glad the stigma is no longer there. Well, I can say no longer there, but it is not as prevalent as it once was years ago. So yeah, our kids deserve the best version of ourselves, and the only way we're going to be able to give them that is if we're right within. And it's hard to get right within if you're not willing to, as Keone stated, take that accountability, look in the mirror, and see where you could be better. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me as a mom now, it hurts me sometimes when I think about, like, I wonder what my kids will grow up and say, like, I wish my mom did this, or I wish, if there's going to be any trauma that they feel because of parenting. And that kind of scares me because, for one, like, there's no instruction manual to parenting, so we're figuring it out. And like we mentioned, I think in a previous video, like, we're breaking generational curses. Like, we didn't grow up with both of our parents in the home, or both of our parents married, or anything like that. So this is new territory for us, and we want to continue to be that inspiration for our children. And I think in order for us to do that, we also have to especially do the work so that they won't grow up feeling like, it was a toxic household.
Right.
And that's not to say that there won't be anything, because like I said, we're not perfect. We're not perfect parents. So there's always going to be room for improvement. So I think the initial step is to make sure that we're self-aware, we're aware of our parenting, that we give our children a voice, like allow them to come and talk to us when things are bothering them, or even things about us. If I feel like now, like, they're able to come to us and let us know, like, when something we've done have, like, hurt their feelings or something, and we're able to apologize to them and talk about it with them. And so I think that's something that I wasn't able to do. So I'm glad that they're able to do that now. And so we're raising the next generation, and so we have to be accountable and make sure that they're in a healthy mental state as well.
So not to get biblical, but
we're about to get biblical.
All right. So 2 Timothy 1:7 reads, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind."
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite scriptures. Definitely one that I carry with me, and in times where I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I repeat that to myself and remind myself of that. And I think it's so true. And I think a big discussion of mental health has been the fact that sometimes it's not acceptable to talk about in the church. And I hate that in the past that has been the case. And I'm happy that now more churches are becoming aware of the importance of mental health. And I think that that scripture relates that to, in order to be powerful, in order to be loving, like, you have to have a sound mind. And so I think that seeking therapy, seeking counseling, seeking other opportunities such as a self-care day or a mental health day, any of those things, like, that's you taking your power back. Like, that's you walking in love. That's loving yourself. And I think that God has called us to be all of that. And so he has placed the resources here for us. You can seek out faith-based counselors. So there are resources for us and for every avenue of life. And it just goes back to show, like, health is wealth, and that includes your mental health.
Right, exactly. And I feel like it's more so your mental health than anything when we're talking about wealth. Mm-hmm. I know people hear wealth and they think assets, they think money, they think all of the other things, all the materialistic things. You can have all of that. You can have the money of Jeff Bezos, and you're not right mentally. You're not really wealthy. Not in the aspect if your mental is not right. And I know a lot of people be like, well, I'll trade places with them any day of the week. But you're talking from a monetary standpoint. We don't know what version of himself is he happy with. We don't know if he's happy looking in the mirror or not. I'm not saying that I don't know him from a can of paint. But I'm just trying to get you to see, like, we don't know. We think that money resolves everything. And it does not. Now, Not to get on another debate, but I am a strong believer that money can buy happiness. And I understand that may be a little contradicting to what I said, but money can only buy happiness if you're sound, if your mental health is where it needs to be, if you're happy with the person you are, then I feel like the only thing that you're missing, if it's money, then I feel like money can help with that. But if you're not right within, money can never, ever, ever buy happiness.
Yes, and so I was always an advocate of money can't buy happiness because I felt like there were so many examples of people who you would look at and be like, oh, they got all this money in the world, and they were unhappy with themselves, and they would come out and make statements, or, you know, in certain cases, rest in peace, those of them who committed suicide. And I remember like lots of people saying like, they're so successful or they're rich, like I can't imagine. Like that's because to me money does not buy happiness. Like there is so much more, and like my husband said, it all comes back to mental health. Like that is your wealth.
Exactly. And going back to what Keone said in a previous segment about us raising the next generation, like we can't take that lightly. Like we really are. Like even the ones of you who don't have biological kids, whether you're raising stepkids or whether you're just a pillar and nieces and nephews, whether you're a pillar in your community, does not matter. Like at some way, shape, or form, you are raising the next generation.
They're looking up to you.
They are. So the biggest thing to remember is back when you were of age, whatever, as far as back as your mind will allow you to go back and reminisce, and try to think about the person you needed the most. Not like just the relationship to the person, but like just try to think of what type of person you needed the most when you were going through whatever you were going through, whether that's your adolescent years or whatever the case may be. Be that person for someone else. Because we all need someone we can count on, whether that's like a family member, whatever the case may be. The one thing about parenting is half the battle is showing up. Just being there, like being able to take that call, being able to take time out with your kids and do that whole thing, that's half the battle. And I don't think we realize that, especially in our community, especially Black fathers, we neglect that. We really do, and I don't like to throw myself in that category. Let me be honest. That is a category I would never throw myself in. It's usually we, and all of that when it comes to like these debates, because I am no better than no one else when it comes to certain aspects. And I am no better than no one else when it comes to mental health. But when it comes to being a deadbeat, it's not a we. I can assure you it would never ever be a we. I cannot relate. Because I think that fathers have to understand just showing up, like I stated, it's just half the battle. Like it doesn't cost anything to come get your child, take them to the park, or whatever the case may be. If you have to get a bus there, if you have to Uber there, you have to live there, it does not matter. There are so many ride shares now, it's no excuse not to see your child. So show up, be present, and go from there. Like if you don't know where to start, and this to all the fathers that have not been present in their child's life, it's never ever too late to start. Because you have to start somewhere. And if you don't know where to start, I'm telling you where to start now. Show up.
All right, guys. So that concludes today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell us your thoughts. Join in on the mental health discussion and let us know. If there are any other topics you'd like us to talk about, please let us know in the comments or message us on social media or anything like that. Thank you all for your support, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much, family, for the support. We appreciate everything. Remember, health is wealth. James Gang over everything. It's okay to not be okay. Remember that.